All right, so we're into the heart of middle distance running today with the 1500 meters, sometimes called the metric mile, even though it's about 110 meters short of a mile. I've actually never run a 1500. I've done plenty of mile runs, I've done plenty of 1600 runs, but I've never done a 1500, so interested to see how it goes. All right, in 2016, the men's 1500 meters was won by American Matthew Centrovich. He ran a 3-minute 50-second race. That was the slowest 1500 meter race since the 1920s. He's also the first American to win the 1500 since 1908. He got some criticism about the time on the race, but the 1500 can be a highly tactical race, and a win's a win, especially in the Olympics. Basically what they did was jog the first half of the race and then sprint the second half. On the women's side, the race was won by Faith Kipyegon of Kenya. She won in 4:08, and they ran a very similar race, very slow at the start with a very high sprint finish at the end. In the Olympics and the World Championships, they're not allowed to have pace setters in the race. When you run professionally, there's often pace setters to keep the pace high for the entire race. But when you get to the Olympics, it's just who qualifies for the finals. So sometimes you get people that just want to take it easy for the first half of the race and come down to a final sprint. And that's what happened in both the men's and the women's race. At the new track today, this is the track for Brown Deer High School. This is where I ran in middle school and high school. And then for a few years after that, just for fun. I haven't been back here in a couple years. It's actually a nice track. I like the surface a little bit better than the one that I usually run at Pulaski. It's a little bit harder, a little bit more firm. Pulaski's track is a little soft, a little sticky. You kind of feel your foot sinking into the track and almost have to fight to pull it out, especially with spikes on. So this is a little bit of a faster track. At the world level, the tracks are made by a company called Mondo. It's an Italian company, and they're very firm, but also very springy, so you get some propulsion out of the track. I've ran on a few of those tracks. You can find them on college campuses sometimes. They're very nice tracks, very fast tracks. You notice the difference right away. Coming through the first 3/4 of a lap, just under a minute. My goal on this run is to try and finish in under 6 minutes. That's not an amazingly fast pace. That would translate to something like a 6:15 miles, somewhere around there. But that's going to be a fast pace for me, given the amount of time that I've spent running recently, which isn't a whole lot. That's 1:15 through the first 400 meters. That's right about 5-minute mile pace, which is a good pace to open up with. What's funny about that is 1:15 is almost the exact time that the women ran their opening lap in the 2016 Olympics, where they were criticized for starting out really slow. It just shows that slow in track is kind of a relative thing. And that's one of the neat things about track, is that you can compare yourself directly to world-class athletes. You just go out to a 400-meter track and run and see how your time compares to other athletes. And that's not really possible in a lot of other sports. You can't, say you're 50% the basketball player is LeBron James or something like that. There's not an absolute comparison, but in track, there is. The track is 400 meters, the clock is always counting, and you can always compare where you're at. You see the track's a little bit crowded today. It's actually not as crowded as it might look on video. I didn't have any problem making my way through the crowd. Probably should have practiced a little bit better social distancing, but it was fresh air. There was lots of space. The nice thing about track, as far as that goes, is the lanes are 3 feet wide roughly. They're meter wide, it's about 3 feet. So 2 lanes will give you that 6 feet of clearance. Coming through the halfway mark at 2:40, and this is where I'm really happy that I forgot my stopwatch for this event. And so I used my phone as a timer, and I was glad that I had that as a reminder, because I started to lose track of lap count. It's a little tricky because you're starting and finishing at different spots, and you want to take the time checks at the 400-meter spot, which is the start, but that's not the finish, and it can get a little confusing. I went through 800 meters just under 3 minutes, which is still right on pace for what I'm shooting. That's a little bit more than halfway done in 3 minutes, so that's actually a little bit ahead of pace to finish in 6 minutes. So nice even pace here, trying to hold the pace. This is where really being conscious of where you are in the race is really important, and why I was happy that I had that phone to let me know where I was, because I started to lose focus or to lose idea how far I'd run at times, and it's a little bit hard to pace yourself if you don't know how much further you have to run. This is the coming through the end of the about halfway through the second lap, almost to the end of the third lap. You see, I'm starting to feel it a little bit here. This is where the race always feels long. The 3/4 mark of any race is really the tough part, because you've burned up a lot of energy at the start and the finish isn't quite in sight yet, so you still got a lot of work to go. Finishing up that last lap, there's going to be 500 meters to go here. I'm sorry, 400 meters to go here. So what I'm really going to want to do coming around this turn is really start to kick as hard as I can. Notice the time here, 4:30. Both the men's and women's races would have finished. The men's race would have finished about 40 seconds ago, and the women's about 20 seconds ago. So I still have a lap to go. I think the men's race finished when I was 500 meters to go with the race, and the women's race finished just about the time I crossed the finish line for the last lap there. So they both, the men and women's winners, would have lapped me on this run. Coming in to the last 200 meters, this is where I'm really trying to kick. It looks like I'm slow, it looks like I'm losing my form, but I really was fighting to get a good kick here. I felt strong at this point and knew that I was above the pace that I wanted to keep, so I really tried to push hard and finish as strong as possible. I'm coming into the last 150 meters, really trying to pick it up here. You can see my cadence is coming into a little bit quicker pace here, coming around the turn. 100 meters to go, and in any race, the last 100 meters feels like it takes forever. It feels like the finish line is moving away from you with every step, and you're trying to chase it down. Here, I'm trying to get upright, trying to stay smooth, trying to turn those legs over, doing the best I can. This is about the best kick that I have left here. It doesn't look so graceful, but it actually felt pretty fast at the time, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job. Coming across the finish line, 6:03, just over my goal, and I'm really feeling it. I put in as much effort as I could into that run. Time isn't terrifically great, but I did what I could, and I felt good about my effort there.